Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Noel Sayer. I'm the concierge here at Planet Australia and your host for the webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar. The format for our webinar today is essentially an introduction and overview of Solid Setup Plus. Some of you may be familiar with the content being shown. However, please send us any questions by typing them into the Q&A section of the chat that I'll be opening up shortly. We hope to have time to answer questions today. However, as we do have a large audience planned, if we can't make it to everybody, we'll certainly follow up with each and every one of you after the webinar. I'd like to introduce our key presenter today, Damien Santong from our service team, who will be taking us through Solid Setup Plus. Now it's over to you, Damien, to take us through Solid Setup Plus. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Solid Setup Plus webinar. As Noel introduced, my name is Damien, part of the services team here at Planet Australia. So today I will be demonstrating what Solid Setup Plus is and what can it offer to yourself and to your business. Before I actually begin any demonstrations of the Solid Setup packages, I'd just like to show you the differences between what packages are offered from Planet Australia, and as well as what is on offer from Solid Setup Plus. To begin with, I will be switching between screens with the presentation as well as onto Cabinet Vision. Just wanted to make that a note for everyone. So what I'd like to begin with is, what is Solid Setup Plus? So Solid Setup Plus are a range of packages that specializes in developing solutions for yourself as the Cabinet Vision user, and most importantly, creating efficiencies and solutions for various companies. It also provides enhanced hardware, part, and cabinet functionality. You will see throughout as I demonstrate some of the top packages that are provided from Solid Setup, and you may or may not decide whether these will actually be efficient for yourself and efficient for the business. So as I mentioned before, I'd just like to briefly explain the differences of the packages that are supplied from Planet Australia, as well as packages provided from Solid Setup Plus. So as you can see here on the screen, I've just created a difference between Planet Australia packages and Solid Setup Plus packages. To understand, with Planet Australia packages, for those customers that are in the Planet Plus program, the packages are on offer to you as a complimentary. So the main differences between the two packages, as you can see on the screen, they both provide functionality. So they are, they do work and are set up in a way that you can use them quite immediately. The next point is the visual representation. Now, with a package provided by Planet Australia, the visual representation is not exactly what the model would appear to be. Whereas a package from Solid Setup Plus, the actual model itself is a clear-cut representation of the hardware that you will be using. And lastly, advanced materials and part attributes. So the main difference being there is that they are materials applied majority with the hardware packages, or all the packages in general, though there are certain areas that make that material a bit more advanced with added parameters and attributes that the user can trigger. So what I'll do here, I'm just going to switch my screen over to Cabinet Vision. I'm just going to drag the window up. And what I'll be showing here within this room, this example room here, is a difference in a package, more so a drawer package, the Bloom Marivo box. So if I go up to my job properties, and I'll just go to my cabinet tab. So at the moment, this is the standard drawer box construction that is provided in a Planet Australia package. So as you can see here, I have the drawer box and rollout assigned. And if I go to my hardware tab, you can see the drawer guide schedule is the Bloom Marivo box. So if I cancel this and go into a drawer cabinet that I have in the room, I'm just going to enter the 3D view. As you can see, as I shift the cabinet around, all the drilling is supplied with a Planet Australia package in this regard for the Bloom Marivo box. So you will receive the operations for the drawer guides, the drawer bottom, the drawer back, and most importantly, the drawer front. Now, if I were to just remove one of the ends from the cabinet, and I'll go back to my 3D view, just to show you what the representation or model appears to look like inside a cabinet vision. So as you can see, it's quite a generic system being used here. So this white block being the drawer guide, and then these various components here making up the drawer box, so drawer back and the drawer bottom. And then along the sides here are your two drawer sides. Now, if I were to go to the section tab of this cabinet, I'm just going to change the hardware properties. So I'll just go to construction. Now I will change our drawer box construction to either the two options down below. So these options down below here, the Bloom Marivo box bottom drawer and tip drawer, these are the drawer box construction supplied with a Solid Setup Plus package. So I'm just going to choose a Bloom Marivo box BMN drawer, as well as changing the rollouts. So along with the rollout, it does provide you other various options for the Bloom Marivo box with the inner drawer. So bottom interior DE, which stands for decorative end. Oh, sorry, design elements, which may be like a glass element on the side of the drawer. So in this case, I'll just choose the RAF, which is a rollout front. And if I go to the hardware tab here, if I drop down my drawer guide schedule, the other drawer guide schedules you see that I'm hovering over with my mouse are the schedules provided again with the Solid Setup Plus package for the Marivo box. As you can see, they are separated into 6 categories here with 2 weight ratings. As you can see, there's a Bloom Marivo box WTE, which stands for whites. So along with this Marivo box package from Solid Setup, there are various colors supplied. So there is the white, and I believe there's also the black. But in this case, I would just be demonstrating the white. So there are various options with the box cap, box cover with the M series and with the gallery rail. So I'll just choose it with the gallery rail and I'll select OK. Now, if I go back into the 3D view, you can see it is a perfect representation of what the Bloom Marivo box would look like if you were using the actual hardware physically. Now going on to the face view, again, all drilling is supplied with these packages. As you can see, drilling to the drawer bottom to drawer back, the drawer back to the brackets, and most importantly, the knock-in fitting for the drawer front, as well as your drawer guide here. Now, the next part I'm going to demonstrate is probably one of the big main differences between the drawer package that is supplied from Planet Australia versus Solid Setup Plus. So as we can see, we have our perfect representation of the drawer guide here with the drilling assigned. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this job down to return back to the main menu. If I go into my material tab here, and I expand drawer guide, Bloom, and I'll select Marivo box here. So these are the drawer guide materials that are provided with a package from Planet Australia. As you can see, each drawer guide with a specified length, height, and series of the runner. If I select one of the materials and go to its properties, as most of you are aware, this is how you would set up a drawer guide, and you would have your options here for the system to work. Most importantly, the operations for the drawer guide. So our position setups here, our front mounting holes here. Now, the main difference between these two packages if I were to return out of here and return, if I go to the Utilities tab and User Creator Standards, if I scroll down to the Bloom Marivo packages here, if I select this first option in the UCS for attributes, you can see on the left, we have a list of public variables. Now, this is what makes the Solid Setup package far more functional. As we can see, we have various options to adjust the operations for that draw package near enough on the fly. So with a package that is provided by Planet Australia, the operation depths and diameters would have to be adjusted one by one through the draw guide material. But as you can see here, this package is set up in a way where we can adjust it on the fly with the public variables. So I'll go back into the example file I was using before, and I'll demonstrate how exactly that would work. So we have our solid setup package already assigned. Now, the example I'll just show here is just in relation to the draw guide drilling. So if I just quickly measure this, as you can see, we have a 5 mil diameter hole for our draw guide. Now, for the sake, if anyone is using 3 mil screws or a 3 mil hole for the draw guide, we can go to the Utility tab, User Created Standards, select our Bloom Marivo box attribute UCS here. And then on the left, we will just scan through this list. And then as you can see, we have guide cabinet depth and guide cabinet diameter. So at the moment, we can see it's a 5 mil diameter. If we need to change this to 3, simply change that to 3. Click off to confirm the selection. If I select return, as you can see there, our hole has changed to a 3 mil diameter hole. So these are some of the options that are easily adjustable for any Cabinet Vision user. Not to mention a room parameter that is provided that allows you to change the draw front from a knock-in fitting to a screw-on fitting. So as you can see with that room parameter on the left, so draw front screw on, currently it's turned off. If I were to change that to true, and if I zoomed in on one of the draw boxes, you can see that now the fitting holes for the draw front have changed to a screw-on fitting. So again, these are the main big differences between a Planet Australia package that is provided complimentary versus a solid setup package that you can purchase from the online store. So next, I will be demonstrating the top packages that are provided from Solid Setup Plus. Firstly, I would like to start off with the oval hanging rods. Now, if those who are not familiar with the hanging rod, this package allows you to add a 30 by 15 oval hanging rod into your cabinets, provides all necessary operations needed, which can be obviously sent to your CNC and ready for the production team, all 3D model components for the oval hanging rods and brackets, and as well as the ability to add a center pillar. So if I just switch this back over to Cabinet Vision, and I'm going to change rooms to a room I've set up. So as we can see here, I've just set up a pretty standard, I guess, wardrobe layout you may see in common households. So what I'm demonstrating here would be a real life situation. So if I just go to the elevation view and I double click on one of my open cabinets, by going to the section tab, section interior, first we need to start off by creating a horizontal split, selecting the object and changing it to a shelf. Now either going to your face, plan, or end view. In this case, I'll just go to my end view. What I'll be doing here is manually changing the material to the hanging rail. Now, once I change it to the hanging rail, you'll see everything take place. So if I right click on the shelf, go to my properties, and I'm going to change the material. So I have my rod oval 30 by 15 material here. So I'm just going to select that, click OK. And as you can see, it's added in the brackets as well as the 30 by 15 oval rail. If I go to my 3D view, you can see it's an accurate representation of what you would receive physically from any of your hardware suppliers. Now, along with this hanging rail, there are attributes that are available to the user to make various adjustments as required. So go into the face view, and if I select my rod oval, on the left here, there are attributes in relation to the oval rod. So the first one being the left hand, which is currently set to a bracket. So rod oval bracket left hand, the option is a bracket. You do have the ability of changing that from a bracket to a pillar. So if I select pillar, you can see now that it has changed to a pillar. So in this situation, if the cabinet is open-ended, you can change that to a pillar style. So I'll just show you all what that looks like in the 3D view. So you can see the pillar there. Selecting the rod oval again, you do have an ability to move the rail in and out. This would probably be best suited to look at it from the end view. Though automatically, if we look at the end view, the rail will be positioned in the center of the internal of the cabinet. If you're required to move it in and out, select the rod oval again. And depending on which direction you need to go, you can add or minus. So if I just go plus 100, you can see that everything moves accordingly. So great adjustment here. Now, because this is using a section part, the adjustments via the section interior are also available for you to use. So as you can see, it is highlighted the whole object being the rod oval. We can adjust the left and right positioning of the rail here. So if we only need a rail that doesn't go to the full length, you can make the adjustment here if required. So from the left, I'll just go minus 200. If I go back to my face view, you can see that now the rod has adjusted to that position. Given that we are using a pillar here, we can go to the section interior, do another horizontal split. I'll just change this to a fixed shelf. And all we need to do at this moment is measure the difference so we can adjust it via the section interior. So a vertical value of 480.5. So as you can see, it has fired the drilling for the sensor pillar into the shelf. If I select the oval again, you can also change the quantity of pillars that you require. So you have up to the option of 2 or none at all. So if I apply 2 here, that'll be in addition to your end bracket. Once you activate the sensor pillars, you do have offset options on the left-hand side. So your 2 attributes for pillar 1 and pillar 2. So you can adjust these as required. So that's using the oval rods. If I just go back to the presentation, the next one I'll be demonstrating is locks for doors and drawers. This is a great package. It allows you to control and add various locks and striker plates that are required for your projects. So as you can see, attributes on the door control the lock and striker positions. All drilling is provided for the lock and striker that you can output to your machine. Once again, 3D models for the lock and striker. Now, the way this package has been configured is that if you do use a specific type of lock or lock and striker, each of the materials contain models in a way that you can import a new model and adjust the drilling accordingly. And the parameters and attributes evolved will still work effectively to your new lock. So if I switch back to Cabinet Vision here, now I'm just going to change my room. I'll just select a base cabinet for this demonstration. So if I double click onto the cabinet here, now by selecting one of the doors, we have an attribute on the left for lock on. So I'll change that to true. As you can see, it has provided us with the lock and the striker plate here. Once that is activated, you will receive additional attributes, which would be your offsets, the edge which you wish to place the lock. So I might change that to reference the top. So as you can see, it has changed the position of the lock. You also can change the edge reference. So with the drop down here, you have the reference to the opening and reference to the part, which would be the door. Now, as I mentioned before, you can have up to 5 striker types and locks. So with the initial implementation of locks for doors and drawers, you do receive 1 type. So if you do require additional ones, you are more than willing to set that up as well. So if you wish to change the offsets, for example, that would be the corner offset. If the reference was from the parts, so as we are referencing the opening, we can change the center offset as well. And you can see the lock will shift in either direction depending on the value, if it's a negative or a positive. So these are a great package if you do require locks for doors and drawers. So the next one will be the Häfele plastic legs. Now, this is probably one of the most commonly used packages that we see implemented in a lot of our customers' databases. It is a great package for adjustable legs. There's a lot of control for the user to adjust anything on the fly. So if I go back to Cabinet Vision, I will just remain in the same cabinet here. Now, with the plastic legs, there are cabinet and part attributes. So without selecting the deck, which would provide you with the part attribute, I'll demonstrate what the cabinet attributes are provided with the legs. So on the left-hand side here, we do have plastic legs. Automatically, it's always going to be set to auto. If you don't require legs for the cabinet, you can change it to false. If you require a cutout for a dishwasher using legs, there is an attribute here, plastic legs DW route. Automatically, it is set to none. If you do require one either on the left-hand or right-hand side of the cabinet, so I'll just select left here. I'll just go to our plan view. So by selecting left, it has added an additional leg. Once the cutout is activated, you do have the ability to edit the route as well. So by selecting the deck, we can also edit the positioning of each of the legs by selecting leg edit position on the left-hand side. Once that is activated, you then receive your attributes to adjust your dishwasher route. So our depth would reference in our Y position here. So if this only needs to be a 50 mil depth, you can adjust it like so, and then the adjustable leg will also move accordingly. Along with the other attributes you have on the left, we can adjust our insets for the plastic legs across the back. So again, if that needs to be increased, everything will adjust along with the routes for the dishwasher hole. You do have adjustments for insets from the front. Then you have your left and right adjustments as well. So again, very powerful attributes that allow multiple options for editing to adjust your leg positioning. Once, along with your leg positioning, you also have leg quantities. So below here, our attribute on the left, our leg edit quantity. By turning that to true, you can see we do have options to add a middle row on the back left to be on or off, on the back right, front left, and front right to be on or off. So by selecting our mid row quantity, you have up to 3 you wish to add. For this demonstration, I'll just select 1. And as you can see, it's added additional legs front and back for the cabinet. So very handy if you do have an oversized cabinet, you can add in the additional legs if required. Along with this package, if the Cabinet Vision user does have the room attribute to adjust the kick height, the model of the adjustable leg will also configure. So at the moment, our kick height is at 120. If I were to adjust that to say 150, as you can see, the model does extend as well. So that is the Haefely plastic leg package. The next one is also relative to the base end kicks of a cabinet, which are the toe assembly frames and skins. So for those who use ladder frame construction for your cabinets, this package will be very handy and efficient, not only for the setting out, but also if you do produce the components on the CNC. So following the points along, so the ability to set out your toe kick layer, use attributes to control or adjust settings on each toe assembly independently. You have the ability to add dishwasher holes, routes, or frame checkouts, and as well as applying skins. So if you have faces to the front of the toe assembly, you have the ability to add those in as well. So I'll just go back to Cabinet Vision, and I will use our wardrobe room as an example. So with these 3 cabinets in question, what I'll be doing is I shall combine the toe assemblies together. Once you combine the toe assembly, you can see that it has created one whole toe assembly here. I'm just going to double click into the object and go to the 3D view. I'll just rotate that around. As you can see, all necessary components are provided. So we have our skin on the front, we have our front toe, we have our multiple sleepers across the middle of the assembly, we have our back toe, our side sleepers, and it also provides horizontal returns for our end sleepers. Once the toe assembly is activated, on the left-hand side, there are object attributes for modifications. So you can, starting from the bottom, you can adjust the recess of the front toe on the fly as well. So if this needs to be set back even further, as you can see, the whole object has reduced and all the components along with it. To demonstrate the dishwasher checkouts, we have toe dishwasher left hand and toe dishwasher right hand. By default, they are turned off, so they are only turned on when required. If I select a drop down, if I need a checkout on the left hand side, you can see there it has provided a checkout with the necessary components to create it. Once a checkout is activated, you do have additional attributes to adjust the DX, so the dimension X and the dimension Y. So if the checkout needs to be greater than, for this example, 180, you can see that all components adjust accordingly. If you do not require a checkout and you only need a hole, if I just rotate this around, you can see that has provided a hole on the end of the toe assembly. So each operation or checkout will provide additional attributes for further control from the user. So as you can see, we have the hole DX, which is the overall diameter, the Y position, which would be from the bottom of the sleeper end here, and the Z position, so would be from the back of the toe assembly. After hole, you also can apply a route, which will then give you the same attributes for movement and adjustment. Along with the toe assembly, there are other areas that you can adjust. So on the left-hand side, under toe edit, we do have a drop-down that is available. So as you can see, they are separated into 4 areas of the assembly. So the first one being the overall assembly, where we would apply any dishwasher routes or adjust the recess. From there, we do have the frame. So the frame will give you adjustments to anything that affect the overall toe assembly. So as you can see here, by default, the toe frame will be on. So if you do not require the frame, you can turn this off, which will then also remove any adjustable attributes, which again will just leave you the skin on the front. So you do have left hand and right hand adjustments, which will then increase or decrease depending on what is required. Toe frame braces would be the 2 end braces here. So if you do not require those, you can turn them off. If they are on, you do also have the ability to adjust the width of the braces as well. So if they are not as a standard 100 millimeters wide, you can adjust them to what is required. As you can see, they've adjusted there. Furthermore, to the attributes, you have the gap under the back toe. So at the moment, our kick height is at 120. In some cases, if a gap is required, you can apply that into the attribute on the left for the back toe. So as you can see, it has lifted the back toe by the value of 20 mil. And the same attributes for front toe and side toe apply as well. So if you need a gap, you can apply that there. Along with that, we can also change the type of construction that is provided for the toe frame. So if you do not use screws, you can turn them off. And if you do, say, like a tongue and groove or mortise and tenon type scenario for your kicks, you can activate the toe frame rebates. So you have a full dado or a tab or mortise and tenon in most cases. If I go to the 3D view, you can see it creates the tab type construction there. Or if I change it to a full dado, it will just be a full groove for your components to join together. There are also additional, so your sleeper to the wall. As you can see, it will change the configuration on how the back toe meets the side toe or the sleeper. You can see the change there. From the frame, you can make adjustments to your skin. So skin being your kick faces that you apply to the fronts. So as you can see here, you do have additional options for the frames. So if you do require banding on any edge of the skin, you can apply those here. So toe skin, banding bottom, and you can see it does apply the banding for you there. Floor scribes, if you need additional. In most cases, scribe is supplied for on-site work. Now, if you do have a return on your toe, so if I go to my section view, I'll change that to a finished. As you can see, it does supply a side finish toe here. Along with that, we'll provide you mitering options for the frames to be produced onto the machine. As you can see, we have our mitering options on the left-hand side. So toe skin miter. So if you don't wish to dual miter, you can turn this off, which will then convert it to a butt join configuration. And whether or not if you do require the miter on the front and the left hand on the right hand, so by default, they're always going to be set to auto. So as soon as you apply a finished end on either side of the toe, it will apply a miter. If you are using a miter, you can also adjust the trim, so i.e. the excess that you require to do the miter. And most importantly, the scribe to the wall. So by default, a 20mm scribe is supplied. If you do not wish to supply a scribe, you can remove it and all the components will be adjusted accordingly. Moving on from the skin, you then have your sleeper options. So your sleeper options will be anything in adjustments to our middle sleepers of the toe assembly here. So again, you can adjust the X positioning from the left hand and right hand. If you require braces for the middle sleepers, you can activate them with toe sleeper braces set to true, which will then provide you the horizontal sleepers for each one. You also have the gap adjustment on the left-hand side as well. And you can also apply legs underneath your sleepers if that's the configuration you use. With the quantity adjustments, you have a selection of up to 16. So if I were to use 9, you can see now we have 9 sleepers with each of them with legs at this stage. You may require a bit of a refresh on the cabinet, so you may need to come in and out for the attribute to take effect on the objects. So this is the power that's provided with the toe assembly frames and skins. So a lot of adjustability, pretty much anything that you require to suit your needs. The next package I'll be demonstrating is the part routes by attributes. This is a great package, especially for those users that don't have the X shaping module applied on their license configuration. So as I'll demonstrate, part routes by attributes are used within the cabinet editor. So you do not need to double click onto the part itself and apply routes via the CAM editor. So as you can see with the points, you do have up to 4 controllable routes per part. You can swap between the front and back face of the part, length and width adjustments, as well as the X and Y positioning. And you do have 2 choices of selecting a rectangular or circle shape operation. And you have an attribute to set whether you need the operation to go all the way through or just to a set depth, and as well as applying it to be just an outline or path, or you need like a rebate or pocket type operation. You do also have the ability to assign a specific tool ID to that operation as well. So if I go back into Cabinet Vision, I'll just return out of the kick. Now I'll just use the open cabinet here. In this demonstration, I'll just use the top. So by selecting the plan view, I'm going to select our top. Now the parts via attributes will work with majority of main components for a cabinet. So as I've selected the top, on the left-hand side, we have the attribute to apply routes. So by turning that to true, as you can see, it has activated a rectangular route as a default. Once the route is turned on, you do then have various attributes on the left-hand side here. The main attributes are activated for the first route that you do apply. If you do require additional routes, 2, 3, and 4, you can turn those on if required. Now, with the route being activated, we can either edit, we can change the option to a through or a set depth as noted in the points. We can change the operation type to a circle. So as you can see, it has created a circle here. The front face or the back face, a pocket or a path, and then whether or not the operation needs to be centered to the parts. So if we center the operation to the part, and if you just require an X and Y adjustment, we can just add those in from the attributes on the left here. You do also have the ability to change the overall diameter or the DX, in this case being for the circle. We can change that to, for example, 100 mil if required. And as well as assigning the tool ID. So the tool ID is in reference to the grade number on the tool inside of the tool catalog. So they're assigning routes via part attributes. And like I said before, we do not require the X shaping module. So in this case, you do not require the cam tab for the part, which would then give you the ability to assign manual routes. Moving on, we do have rail control for base cabinets. So this will allow you to have more control over your top rails for your base cabinets. So you can switch between horizontal and vertical placement, the ability to modify the rail widths. Within this package from Solid Setup, you also can change the material type to the vinyl wrap timber, which are used in some cases. And most importantly as well, the functionality of it for corner cabinets. So if I just go over to another room. So I shall be using this sink cabinet as an example. So as we can see here, our current rail is set horizontally. Now there are two ways to activate the rail editing. The first one would be at the room level, which would take effect for all cabinet or all base cabinets inside of the room. Or if you only require for a specific cabinet, you can select the cabinet and then you have the rail edit attribute on the left-hand side. To demonstrate this further, I will be going inside of the cabinet and then going to our 3D view. So as you can see here, we do have our horizontal rail. Now, the default rail size will be referenced from your construction methods on how they're set up. So in this case, our rail is set to 105. Now, if we want to change this rail to be vertical, all we need to do is go to our attribute list on the left and activate the rail edit attribute. By doing so, we'll give you the ability to change the horizontal width. So at the moment, it's 105. If you need to make that smaller, that's what the attribute on the left-hand side will provide for you. Now, rail front, this is where we would determine the orientation of the rail. Now, by selecting the drop-down, the first option is auto, so that would follow your default setup. If you do not require a rail, you can turn it off by selecting none. Sorry. And our first option here would be our standard horizontal. If we require the vertical orientation, in this case we do, you can select vertical. Once you change your orientation to vertical, you do then receive the additional attribute to change the vertical height. So if you need that to be smaller or if you need that to increase, you can change the value of it here. Now, for those who use the vinyl wrap timber rails, you do have your last two options for timber horizontal and timber vertical. So timber vertical will give you a visual representation of a 42 by 19 rail, as well as the construction holes required for that rail here. If your cabinet construction utilizes rear rails, so front and back, you would receive an additional attributes to control the back rail as well. The next package would be the adjustable shelf control. So this will allow the user to control the diameter, quantity, spacing, and positioning of the adjustable shelf holes from both the room parameters, the cabinet, and part level. So I'll just use the same cabinets. Sorry. So I'll demonstrate here with the room properties on the left. As you can see, we do have adjustable bore edits. By default, it is turned off. So if you do require editing for the entire room, you can activate the functionality here. By turning it on, you do have the ability to change the depth, diameters, the front and back positions, as well as a Y adjustment if required. So you can move the shelf holes up and down if necessary. Hole or bore quantities, and most importantly, the spacing between each hole. If you only require for the cabinets, so I'll just double click into the cabinet. I'll activate that same attribute, so adjustable bore edit. And as an example, I'll just change the spacing between the two holes. So I'll just change that from 32 to 64. So as you can see here, the centers between each hole have now become 64 millimeters apart, center to center. Again, with the quantity, you do have a selection up to 15 holes. So I'll just use 10 as an example, although it looks a bit funny, but you do have that power and control if required for the adjustable shelf holes. If you do turn the editing off, it will just revert back to your default setup for your adjustable shelf holes. You can also do the editing via the part attributes on the left-hand side. So we can turn the bore editing on or off in its entirety. So as you can see, there's no more boring if I turn that adjustable bore to be false. If your shelf has holes through the unfinished back and you require them to go through, you do have the attribute for in back through to be true, which will then provide the drilling all the way through. So this is great if you're using, say, a vertical partition with shelves both sides. You can just turn the boring through, or if it's back to back, you can turn the boring through if required. So by turning the editing on, you are provided the same attributes from the cabinet and room level, though this will just take effect for the individual part itself. So the part editing is more so if a shelf has required specifications just for that part alone. In conjunction with the adjustable shelf control, would be moving on to shelf shape editing. Now, this is a common question that we receive at Planet in regards to shaping shelves a lot more easily with attribute control. This package gives you exactly what you need. So as you can see, following the points, it allows you to choose shapes for corner or straight cabinets, and then also provides attributes to edit the radiuses as well as the sizes. Corner cabinets will provide an L or C-shaped shelf, and straight cabinets will provide an L or a U-shape. So as I mentioned, it does work best in conjunction with the adjustable shelf control provided by Solid Setup. This is more so in regards to if holes are adjusted, the holes would remain parametric for the shaped part. So again, just by using the straight cabinet that we have been working on, if I select the adjustable shelf, on the left-hand side, we have the attribute down the bottom called shape. Now, if I select the drop-down, and because this is a straight cabinet, we are provided only with the 3 options for an L-shaped, left-hand, right-hand, and a U-shaped. I'll also demonstrate in a corner cabinet the options that it provides as well. So if you do require a U-shaped shelf, select the U-shape from the drop-down. Just so we can see better, I will remove the doors. I'll go to the 3D view. And as you can see, we have a U-shaped shelf. Now, by selecting the part again, you are provided with additional attributes to adjust the shape shelf. So if we activate the shape edit, you do have options for banding, the setback, the left-hand depth. So that would be from the edge of the shelf to the cutout here. And then most importantly, if the radiuses need to be adjusted as well. So I'll demonstrate each of these attributes, starting with the banding. So if we turn that to false, as you can see, the banding has been removed on the edges. The depth back, if I need to increase that to 400. So the positive value will give from the back of the shelf to the front of the shape. That's the ultimate value there. So if we have a value of 400, if I just measure this distance to the back of the shelf, you can see that we have a value of 400. So the greater the value, the more depth that you will have to the back of the shelf. Also with the left and right hand adjustments, you have those options available to you. And your radiuses at the back and radius at the front. So if we only require 20 mil at the back, you see it changes the shape. And if we require 20 at the front, you see it changes the shape of the shelf here. So with the U shape, you do have L-shaped left hand. So a great function if anyone has a tall blind cabinet. So the L shape will be the most common shelf to be used, maybe in a situation of a walk-in pantry. So again, once you change each different shelf type, you will have the same attributes applied for each one. Now I'll demonstrate the functionality of the shape shelf inside of a corner cabinet. So I'll just go and drag one out. I'll just place it anywhere in the room. So if I select our shelf, at the moment, our shelf is just a square edge in the corners. Not an ideal scenario in most cases for those that need to edge the shelf. So if we go to shape and select the drop down, you can see that we do have additional options available for corner cabinets. So we do have a C-shaped, which will provide you a C shape for the corner cabinet. If you turn the editing on, again, you are then you're provided with the attributes to control everything within that shelf. So that is C-shaped. You have L-shaped deep, which would come all the way here. And with L-shaped deep, you can see it does provide you with the radius in the corner. You have L-shaped shallow. So that will provide you a shallow shelf, again with adjustments if required. Then you have square left hand. So this will just be a square shelf based on the type of return that you will be using. So left hand, and then we have the right hand option. So that is shelf shape editing, very powerful for those that do require a lot of shaping for their shelves for any type of corner situation. The next package that we will be demonstrating is one of the most popular and powerful packages provided by Solid Setup Plus, and this would be Solid Edge. So to demonstrate to you what Solid Edge is, I'll just go back to Cabinet Vision. I'll just select our base cabinet again. Now, Solid Edge will provide the user to control the quantity, the spacing, position, and most importantly, the type of connection that you require for individual parts. Along with Solid Edge, it does provide you visual edge numbers that aid you into editing the connection for the part. For example, if I select the deck, I'll just turn off our unnecessary attributes. So with the attributes on the left, we can see we have edit, edge connectors, edge edit datos, and edge show numbers. So the show numbers are always turned off as a default if you are not editing the connections for the part. So if I activate the edit connectors tab here, attribute. Once that is turned on, you can see the numbers supplied onto the shelf. Makes it really easy for anyone to determine which edge they need to modify. So in this case, I will just be selecting edge 1. So as we can see on the left, our attribute for edge 1 connector, they will always be set to default at first. On the drop down, you can add additional connections if required. So in this case, we do just have construction drilling. If you do require anything further, you can select the add function. You can delete the connection altogether. So as you can see, after I've selected that, our construction drilling has now disappeared. And if you need something entirely new, you then can select the replace function. Once you select replace, you are then provided with additional attributes for further control. Most importantly, starting with the type of connection that you require. So the default one is a cabinet screw. Now, with Solid Edge, you are provided with a variation of type of connectors and connections that you can utilize. So default is a cabinet screw. If your business happens to do dowel construction, we do have an option for 8mm dowels, cabinet fittings, conformat screws, Kiku clips. So in this situation, if you have a fixed panel and you don't want any fixings from the front, a Kiku clip is efficient. Rafix cam, so this will be your generic cam connector. So as a demonstration, I'll just use a Rafix cam. So as you can see here, it has applied Rafix cam connectors, so the 20mm diameter hole on the parent part, and you do then have the drilling for the pin to connect the two components together. Now, by default, the attribute or the connector will read the size of the part, then apply the correct quantity. If you do require more, you do have the attribute on the left to adjust the quantity. So you do have up to a selection of 12 or just one right in the center of the part. The further control you are provided with the first and last position. So you do have the ability to adjust the inset from the first connector and as well as the last connector. So if you require the last connector to be further placed in, so last would be at the front, apologies. You can see now that the connector has moved further in from the front edge of the part. So with Solid Edge, it will provide you that power and functionality to change connections pretty much on the fly when required. Like I said, you can remove them entirely if required. You can flip the face of the connection. So if you need it on the front or back face of the part. So at the moment, it is on the back face. If you do require it on the other side, we can change it to the front. And you can see we can't see it here anymore, which kind of tells us that it is on the front face. Just to demonstrate, I'll remove the shelf, go back to 3D. And now we can see our graphics connector is on the face side of the part. Last but not least, we'll be demonstrating the main package of Solid Connect. Now, Solid Connect is, again, a very powerful package that works in conjunction with Solid Edge. So Solid Connect will provide the Cabinet Vision user a set of construction methods and connections. You have the ability to change connectors for finished and unfinished ends by attributes. You can apply overlay tops and bottoms if required. You can change the connectors for the entire cabinet to cams, deleting all connectors, the ability to change the grain direction on the assembly. So I'll demonstrate that with using our wardrobe room. And the last option would be to adjust and change shadow line options with attributes. So to show you exactly what Solid Connect provides you, if I go to our job properties, select the cabinet tab. If I just drop down our cabinet construction methods, the 4 methods supplied with Solid Connect are SSP QBD, which stands for Qualified Blind Dado, which would either be a tongue and groove or mortise and tenon type situation. For overlay backs, so if you have external backs, Solid Setup Plus, Qualified Blind Dado, overlay ends. So if your ends run through the back, and the last 2 are the same configurations, but using screws. So as you can see, we are using screws at the moment. Each of those construction methods are pre-configured to suit the, I guess, the most common ways of how cabinet construction is done within the industry here in Australia. So Solid Connect and Solid Edge is very much a plug and play type situation with various configuration required to suit items such as like your shelf setback from the front of the carcass. But most importantly is the control that it provides for you on the fly. So within our room, one of the main points was the ability to change shutter line options. So as you can see on the left-hand side here, our room parameter for shutter line type. So at the moment, our current cabinets are a pretty standard configuration. If we required a shutter line, now with Solid Connect, does supply up to 3 types of shutter line methods. The first one being one piece, which would be your generic single rail, potentially with a beveled edge door. You then have channel, which will supply the aluminium C and J channels. And then you have L-shaped. So if you have a front and return rail. So I'll demonstrate the first one with one piece. So I am modifying this via the room parameter. You do also have control via the cabinet as well. So if I select the cabinet, under ASM, so assembly shutter line type, you can see that we can change it for that specific cabinet as well. If I just double click into the cabinet and I'll go to our 3D view, as you can see, it does provide you the notch with a clearance hole. So if I go back to my end view, so the notch is provided for the ends with a clearance hole for the rail to sit square in the cutout. And then if you require the rail to be on a vertical, you can just use the rail edit control parameter on the left here. Now, using this same cabinet, I might just turn the lock off first so we have a clearer picture. Going back to my end view, if I change the shutter line type inside of the cabinet to a channel, as you can see, it does provide the aluminium channel graphic, as well as the fixing brackets that get mounted to the back of the channel. Now, the bracket does not need to be necessarily utilized. It is a material option inside of your material schedules. So for those that use the channel but don't use the bracket, we don't need to assign the bracket material. Though if you do utilize the bracket material, it will provide you the necessary operations to fix that off to the carcass. And lastly would be the L-shaped configuration. So our L-shaped configuration will use our main front rail along with the return rail, and then again, we'll provide you with the clearance hole. Along with activating the shutter line, we'll give you further attributes to adjust the scribe of the rail, either left or right. So as we can see on our left-hand side, we do have attributes for scribe left, and then attributes for scribe on the right-hand side. So if you were to use a scribe, you would probably just configure the sizing based on one cabinet. If you do not wish to produce the rails, you can just turn the shutter line no CNC to true. That will just apply a no CNC parameter to these individual parts, henceforth won't actually be sent to the CNC. The benefit of using L-shaped with solid connect is that it will, if you are producing them to the CNC, the package will supply you a rail big enough that you can create the L shape out of the one piece. So for those that have concerns with sending small parts to an edge bander, the two rails will be supplied as one rail, so you can just edge both sides and cut them down as needed. Now, along with Solid Connect, does give you the option to change overlay top and overlay bottom. So as you can see in this configuration, our deck is butting up against our unfinished back. If you do require the bottom to be overlaid, simply select the attribute on the left for overlay bottom to true. And as you can see, it's configured the whole cabinet, ends and backs, to be sitting on top of the deck here, as we can see in the 3D view. It is the same situation for those that require an overlay top. So using the attribute on the left, we turn on the overlay top. And again, we'll adjust all required parts to create that configuration for you. So our overlay top there. With the further attributes, you can change all of the connectors to a cam fitting. That essentially will change the fitting for the entire cabinet to be cams. If you do not require fittings to unfinished or finished ends, you can simply use the attribute on the left-hand side. So we can change it to a cam default, which would be generally your screw, or you can select it to none. So as you can see, our unfinished ends no longer have any connections to other parts. and as well as the grain direction. So to display the grain direction for the assembly, I will be going to our wardrobe room. Now, again, this would be relative to any material that is using a grain. In this case, our wardrobe cabinets are. So if I double click into our open cabinet, you can see at the moment our grain is going in a vertical orientation. With the cabinet attribute on the left-hand side, assembly grain direction, we can change that to horizontal. And you can see all our components are now going in a horizontal configuration. So that is the power of all solid setup packages that are provided. I hope all of these packages can benefit yourself and your company for the future. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time and allowing me to demonstrate these with you. If you do wish to inquire about any of these packages, or if you wish to have a look further, they are available on the Planet Online store. There are some videos that have been recently released. One in relation to Solid Connect, actually, that will just give you a bit of a visual insight. Along with the solid setup packages, each one does provide a user guide. So a lot of them can be implemented by the user themselves. Obviously, the Planet Services team will be available if integration is required. So yeah, if you are looking into purchasing the package, please have a look. As you purchase the package, there would be an option for a reference individual. So please select the individual to whoever refers you to the page. So yeah, again, thank you so much for your time, and I will be handing it back to Noel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Damien. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Damien, for that excellent walkthrough. Great insight into Solid Setup Plus. I'm sure everybody would agree there's something to be gained by using those preset packages. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the webinar for today. However, I do have a few messages just before we wrap up. If you'd like to learn even more about Solid Setup Plus or any of the individual packages contained within them, including help to import them into and use them with Cabinet Vision, you can book a session with our expert team for one-on-one customization training and education sessions by booking through our webpage or contacting myself at the address that's shown on the screen. A quick note also, our next webinar, which will be coming up on the Wednesday, the 26th of June, we'll be showcasing Cabinet Vision X Machining, the multiplier X Machining. So please keep an eye out for the email that will be coming out prior to that, or otherwise you may have a look at the website again on our website and see the page for events where we post upcoming online and face-to-face activities. One last thing before we go, however, we have something very special today for those of you who are here with us at this point. Today we'll be drawing one lucky winner from the listed names who've attended and are here with us right now to receive a mystery prize related to today's webinar subject. So I will share my screen for just a moment. And we have placed all of the names into the system here, and we're going to spin the wheel. We've randomized the names. We're going to spin the planet wheel, and we will see who it is that will be today's lucky winner. And we have a winner. The winner is Steve or Stephen Martin. Congratulations, Stephen. We'll be in contact with you after today's session to make arrangements with you about your prize. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. We certainly hope that you have gained something, and we really appreciate you sharing your valuable time. From Damien, myself, and everybody here at Planet Australia, we'd like to wish you a great rest of the day and the week ahead. And we hope to see you at our next webinar on the 26th of June, which will be X machining. So from all of us here at Planet Australia, bye for now and have a great day. Thank you.